Good evening, everyone. Oops. At this time, I'll call to order the September 20th regular meeting of Gahanna City Council and ask for the invocation and pledge by Mrs. McGregor.
Father God, we thank you for your many blessings. We ask your wisdom as we make decisions for the city of Gahanna. As always, we ask for your protection on the men and women of our armed and police forces. Amen. For the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Angelou? Here. Bowers? Here. Lyric?
Here.
Leesburg?
Here.
McGregor? Here. Renner? Schnetzer?
Present. Thank you. And at this time, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? None appearing. We'll move to hearing of visitors. Do we have any speaker slips this evening?
We didn't receive any.
And the consent agenda, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
There's a motion by Mr. Leesburg. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Leesburg, second by Mrs. McGregor. Roll call.
Leesburg?
Yes.
McGregor?
Yes.
Bowers? Yes. Lyric?
Yes.
Schnetzer?
Yes.
Angelou?
Yes.
Motion carries. Ordinances for introduction and first reading. We have ordinance 0056-2021 and ordinance authorizing a supplemental appropriation of various accounts. And may I have an introduction of the items under section F?
Mr. President, I'll introduce the items under E. No, I'm sorry. You want E or F?
Under E.
Under E. Thank
My
you.
apologies. I said F, I meant E.
Under E, thank you.
Introduce the items under section E. Excuse me. Under item F, we have ordinances for introduction, waiver, emergency, and adoption. We have ordinance 0055-2021, an ordinance to accept an application for an annexation of 1.465 plus or minus acres for Mifflin Township, County of Franklin, State of Ohio, to the City of Gahanna, Ohio, Johnny Torres Guzman and Amelia Cifuentes Torres, PID 191003163, waive second reading and adopt as emergency. Is there a motion to, adopt with emergency this evening?
I'll make the motion.
Yeah.
We have a motion by Mr. Leesburg, and is there a second? Motion by Mr. Leesburg and second by Mrs. Angelou to adopt ordinance 0055-2021 with waiver of second and adoption as an emergency. I apologize, I didn't say that the first time, the second, the waiver, but still okay. Any discussion? Roll call.
Leesburg?
Yes.
Angelou?
Yes.
McGregor?
Yes.
Schnetzer?
Yes.
Bowers? Yes. Lyric?
Yes. Motion carries. Moving to section F, we have ordinance 0051-2021, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contract with EMH&T for sanitary sewer evaluation survey, smoke and dye testing services, and to declare an emergency. Is there a motion to adopt the legislation with the emergency?
Mr. President, I'll move to adopt ordinance 0051-2021 and to declare an emergency.
Moved by Ms. Bowers. Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion on the table by Ms. Bowers and a second by Mr. Schnetzer. I believe we have a requirement this evening to amend by substitution.
I believe this one is just to amend. I don't think anything was substituted in this one.
Nothing was substituted?
No. We just removed the waiver of second reading off of this one.
Okay.
I think you're thinking of the next agenda.
Oh, I know there is another one. I thought we were doing both, but that's fine. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President. Just with regard to this item, I wanted to thank the administration and particularly City Engineer John Moorhead and Director Grant Crawford for their presentation and their town hall on this program. While I was not able to attend, I got a very excited phone call from Council Member Renner shortly after, who put it in a really, he said that the presentation was very well done and explained it to our residents in a way that was very effective. You know, when Mr. Renner got done explaining it to me, I said, oh, so we have a hypothesis and this will help us get to our thesis. And he said, yeah, that's exactly right. So I think that I have a better understanding of what the smoke and dye testing is now, thanks to the presentation. And I think, you know, this is an important step in moving forward to address the problem. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Bowers?
Yes.
Schnetzer?
Yes.
McGregor?
Yes.
Angelou?
Yes.
Lyric?
Yes.
Leesburg?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda, we have ordinance 0052, 2021, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contract with EMH&T for the administration of the 2021-2022 sidewalk maintenance program and to declare an emergency. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 0052, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Schnetzer and a second by Mrs. McGregor to adopt ordinance 0052, 2021 and to declare an emergency. Any discussion? Actually, with discussion, we do have a need to amend by substitution this evening. Is there a motion to amend by substitution?
Yeah, Mr. Lyric, I'll move to amend by substitution such that we are administering these 2021 and 2022 sidewalk maintenance programs.
Thank you. We have a motion to amend by substitution by Ms. Bowers. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Schnetzer. Any discussion on the amendment by substitution?
Just as a point of clarification, does that include the revised contract and then or the revised proposal and then the email for the 2022 sidewalk program costs?
Clarify your question, please.
So we've amended by substitution. What are we substituting? The new language in the proposal that we received, the updated proposal we received on Thursday? Or does this also include the email that we received on Friday for the 2022?
I would say that the email, and are you referring to the email that I believe came from the mayor with regard
Yes.
to? That was informational. I don't believe that was obligatory. Is that correct?
That's correct. I believe that was provided just for informational purposes as requested by council last week. I believe the amended by substitution would be the updated contract to reflect council's terms as requested last week.
So there are no hard costs for 2022 based on that information?
In the ordinance.
In the ordinance, correct. Any further discussion on the amendment by substitution?
I'd point out that while the proposal says that EMH&T would come back to council to discuss the costs in the 2022 program, City Attorney Malarski last week said that administration would not necessarily need to come back, and remind everybody of that.
Can we, as a point of order, hold that for
Yep.
the actual discussion of the legislation as opposed to the language update?
Okay.
Nothing to do with it.
Any further discussion on the amendment by substitution?
No.
Nothing further. Roll call?
Bowers?
Yes.
Schnetzer?
Yes.
Angelou?
Yes.
Lyric?
Yes.
Leesburg?
Yes.
McGregor?
Yes.
Motion carries. Now on the table is the discussion of the amended by substitution legislation with regard to the contract, which is, as a general statement, in place for the 2021 established sidewalk program, as well as the 2022 identified sidewalk program. And I should say both identified as opposed to established, pending legislation. Any discussion on the amended legislation?
As I mentioned,
Mr. Leesburg.
yeah, the proposal from EMH&T dated, I believe, August 17, said that EMH&T would come back to council with the 2022 prices, but Mr. Malarski pointed out to us that administration, if we pass this for both years, would not necessarily need to come back. So I just want everybody to be aware of that. One other thing, we do have the terms and conditions attached to the proposal now. One of the conditions in there, it speaks directly to the ADA compliance portion of it. We're paying EMH&T to inspect them, but let me find the exact language. But basically, they say that because the ADA is kind of fluid and local regs are kind of fluid, that they won't be held to things that don't meet the ADA or local regs. Talked to one of our fellow colleagues, and Matt, thank you for your interpretation. Basically, if a contractor pours something that's out of spec and we approve it, EMHT has no liability. Just wanted to point that out to everybody. Given the litigious environment we live in and the fact that we do currently have a potential for a sidewalk lawsuit right now pending. So anyway.
Any further discussion?
My question
Angela?
is that usual? Excuse me. Is that a usual thing to happen?
People get sued or have that in the terms and
No,
conditions?
have that in there. Have that in there.
I would argue that, I mean, my terms and conditions that I have pinned to the corner of my desk that I use on every proposal that I send to somebody has things like that to protect the consultant, which is, again, why I asked for the terms
That's
of...
why it was in there.
That's why I asked for the terms of...
Of course, that's the reason, but I'm saying, is that a typical thing to happen?
Yes,
in
it is.
a system like this?
Industry-wise, yes, it is. I believe that's also what I just heard Councilman
Because
Leesburg say.
if it's typical, then
That is
it's in every
typical
one of
language,
them.
yes.
So, thank you. Just don't want to
Ms.
be
Bowers?
putting for something that's, we're the only ones that are going to have to do this. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think, I appreciate the points that Councilmember Leesburg has brought up. I would note that Section 3 of the ordinance that we're voting on does require the administration to provide the approximate cost of the 2022 contract to us specifically, so that I think that we will have some additional information which is specific to this particular ordinance. I think the point is well taken that, and this is sort of on the heels of the conversation, the extensive conversation that we had at Committee of the Whole. Ultimately, the responsibility falls to the city for the implementation of this program, and there's no kind of doubt around that. We are utilizing EMH&T for assistance in building out the program, but I think, the point is well taken that ultimately liability rests with the city for ADA compliance.
If everyone else has spoken, I would say that there is a requirement for us to enforce safe ADA compliancy, whether it is this program or some other form. My only comment, I guess, at this point is with regard to this being an emergency adopted legislation on this particular topic. As I mentioned in committee, I can support this as a single-year program. It doesn't make sense to me to do both year programs in this legislation. I believe there is an opportunity to reevaluate and then reevaluate what that structure would be next year. That's my only comment this evening. Any further discussion?
If I could respond just to that last comment, President Lyric, and I appreciate the concern. If we were to do just a one-year program cycle, so each year's sidewalk maintenance program is a 3-year cycle. If we were to just do one cycle of a program, I mean, we could do, if you just wanted to do one, we could, but we'll be back here in another 6 months or less trying to move ahead to get 22 done. So the idea of doing 2021 and 2022 together was to be much more efficient in council's use of the time, as well as in planning for this program and planning for the next 2 years of rollouts of this program. This 2021 program is, and I know we had lengthy discussion last week, Councilman Leesburg pointed out, this first year's program is a small scale version of it. It really is kind of, I'm calling it the, what was the phrase I used? It's a running start into a full sidewalk maintenance program, whereas the 2022 program will be a full-blown, full-scope sidewalk program.
And I guess that would support my argument that if we're doing a pilot program, then that would give us the opportunity to reevaluate the program the next year for a new structure, potentially.
Well, could be. But I mean, I would say the whole cycle is going to be important for us to evaluate. Once we go through cycles 1, 2, and 3 in a program, that will really enable us to better evaluate how the program works.
That would be 1 year's cycle across 3 years, not a 21 that covers 3 years and a 22 that covers 3 years, which is
Well,
what
they'll
is
be
on the
overlapping
table.
next year, right?
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Schnetzer?
Yes.
McGregor?
Yes.
Angelou?
Yes.
Bowers? Yes. Lyric?
No.
Leesburg?
No.
This evening on this particular legislation with the emergency reading, this legislation passes but fails emergency and would be implemented as regular legislation. Correspondence and actions. Madam Clerk, do you have anything?
I do. We received a request for a new liquor permit for 505 Morrison Road and Patio. It's the former site of Kindred Ales, and it's now Crafted Culture. If you open that file, it lists out the different types that they're asking for. There's a D1, a D2, and a D3. If you have questions or want to discuss this, if there's a potential for objecting it, then we could bring this to the committee. If there are no issues with it, I can just send the letter to them as soon as tomorrow. Just to let you all know, though, the chief of police has looked at it, and there are no objections from the police department.
Thank you.
Just have a question. If I could.
Certainly.
Do we know if Jordan's on Morrison also has the same permit, the 1 a.m. permit?
I don't know. The chief might know off the top of his head. Otherwise, we can look it up and get back to you.
I don't know specifically, but I would say that Jordan's is run as a classic bar facility, so I would expect they would have the most broad liquor permit.
Okay.
Just casual statement. I don't know if it's a statement of fact.
Just wanted to.
Sure.
Were you saying the same permit or the same type of permit?
Type.
Okay.
Same type of
Okay.
permit, yeah.
I thought you were saying they were going to commingle the two.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Different establishments.
Okay.
There would be differences because they are manufacturers. So
Yeah.
there's
I guess I mean specifically, I think, the D1, we can discuss it offline. It's fine. Thank you.
I believe liquor permits are a very specific legal attorney specialty. There's enough of them that people make that their enterprise. And anything from council? Representatives, Mr. Leesburg, CIC.
There's a meeting tomorrow morning. At the golf course.
Golf course.
Yep.
At 8.
8 a.m.
Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, Mrs. Angelou.
Thank you. Our last meeting was, commission meeting was on the 9th of September, and we started the meeting with a moment of silence for a former Morpsey Transportation Director, Bob Lawler, who recently passed away. Bob's legacy of service to Central Ohio was 36 years of work at Morpsey, and he was an integral part of our region's progress, and he will certainly be missed. We have a few action items. The registration for the Summit on Sustainability. We have a table for that particular event, which is from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on October 15th at the Columbus Hilton downtown. We learned more about the new Franklin University benefit for Morpsey members. Though through this new benefit, Morpsey member government employees are receiving 20% tuition discounts on undergraduate and master degrees, 10% discount on doctoral online programs, and free books for many degrees. Learn more about this. You can get some more information from Franklin County, but it's for employees and those people that are part of the Morpsey Commission. The September board meeting, we highlighted much of the great work related to Central Ohio Greenways and related projects, including Rapid 5. Morpsey, One Columbus, and economic development leaders in 11 counties have developed a comprehensive economic development strategy that's called a CEDS, C-E-D-S. I love these things so much and can never remember any of them, but this one is the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, and it serves a strategic blueprint for economic and community development across the region. Morpsey has been working with regional partners, One Columbus, the Mid-Ohio Development Exchange, and the economic development leaders across 11 counties to develop and complete a CEDS. A completed SEDS will unlock important new federal tools and funding sources and ensure the region is prepared for transformational economic development opportunities. The public comment period on this is on draft 2021, is till October 9th. The deadline is to submit feedback on it. You can go to morpc.org and see everything that's part of this, and if you want to make some comments, you can. You can send your comments by email to TGEER, that's for Ted Geer, at morpc.org, or you can actually send it to him or to the 111 Liberty Street, Suite 100, Columbus, Ohio. Again, that deadline for submitting your feedback is October 9th. The development of the SEDS has been guided by a strategy committee of county economic developers, private sector representatives, transit agencies, higher education, and workforce development stakeholders began meeting to further develop the SEDS. The SEDS includes actions on topics such as infrastructure investment, housing, broadband is on everything doing with anything in terms of money, mobility and more. Through it, the 11-county region will be further able to align regional goals to meet the EDA, that's the requirements, and provide an economic assessment, streamline resources to analyze and consider new opportunities for regional economic development funding, plan for respond to and recover the economic shocks and displacement, and attract more federal funding and technical assistance. After adoption, that will be next month, the final SEDS document will be submitted to the U.S. Economic Development Administration for adoption. When completed SEDS, the Columbus region will apply for Economic Development District designation, making available key tools and federal funding sources. So this is a very big deal, and Ted Geer is going to be doing a whole lot of that. This is one of our wonderful things that are happening in Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. The Central Ohio Rural Planning Organization, it's called CORPO, continues to assist member counties in a variety of ways. There were meetings with ODOT to discuss coordination on public engagement and upcoming planning work. ODOT's Regional Transportation Planning Grant Program will provide CORPO members with access to just about $1 million of dedicated funds in a 2-year cycle. The Regional Data Advisory Committee, the RDAC, recently updated the regional data agenda and formed 3 additional work groups. The new groups are partnership and capacity building, local government resources, and of course, broadband and digital equity. MORPC provided the brief census update and made the data released in August available to an easy-to-access format on its open data site at morpc.org/data. It includes 2020 data geography and changes since 2010. The overall takeaway is that the Central Ohio has grown. We all knew that. And changes since that 2010 have been in the 240,000 people. And the region remains on track to be 3 million people by 2050. We'll be developing our first population estimates based on the recent census for member dues in 2022. They will be out to MORPC members for review. The Regional Roundtable, the legislative update reviewed impacts of current federal infrastructure legislation and surface transportation reauthorization, as well as recent state broadband legislation and the Central Ohio Defense Group's activities. Later in September, MORPC will release results of the survey of how local governments are using their American Rescue Plan Act funding. The Sustainability Advisory Committee, this committee will soon be meeting to approve the Regional Sustainability Agenda targets, and the agenda is now available in the web friendly format at morpse.org/sustainability-agenda if you want to see all those. You can get most of this information on our website, which, and if you have any problems with it, just kind of put it in and you can usually find out what's going on. Transportation Policy Committee, MORPSE released the 2021 call for projects for 5310, enhanced mobility funding for seniors and individuals with disabilities. That's quite a bit of money, too, that can be going for things like buses, et cetera, to bring people, seniors and those that have issues with disabilities. And there was an amendment that was made to adopt it to the 2020-2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan to incorporate aspects of the Link US Mobility Initiative. This is a huge initiative as well. And at the Columbus Metropolitan Club on September 15th, there was a forum on that. I was able to attend that about the Link US Mobility Initiative. We had a variety of speakers, including our wonderful director, Mr. Murdoch. We also had Mayor Ginther was there, who was it was wonderful to be able to talk to Mayor Ginther as well, because I was very involved with doing the smart cities things because I showed up at everything, and so I know Mayor Ginther, and we got to actually speak. And of course there was Council President Hardin, who was always a wonderful person to have around to talk to. And CODA, there was a person from CODA, and there was a person from the YWCA that talked about this particular Link Us Mobility initiative. It's really quite something. Also, I wanted to talk about a project that happened on Monday, September 13th, of which there was an Executive Strategy Network meeting for rail expansion in the Columbus region. And there were a number of people that came to Liberty Street to hear this, and the welcome and introduction was done by Kenny McDonald, One Columbus president, and of course William Murdoch and Thea Walsh, also our Ewing, were part of this. They talked about the Midwest Connect and the 3 C&D corridor updates, the keynote update. We had wonderful people speaking to what we need to do to move this forward. And one was Ray LaHood, who was the former United States Secretary of Transportation. There was also then Joe Szabo, former Federal Rail Administrator, and a number of people that we asked, what are your thoughts on this? And they said, if we do not move on this particular thing now, this idea of rapid transit, busing, transit is everything. And indeed, if the federal project goes through, there's going to be many pots of money for transit. And so they said, this is the time. If you pass this time up, you may never have it again. So we can only hope that we can get this, we can get rapid transit, we could get a number of things. There was a large discussion on it, what lasted from 3 to 5:30, and it was, it's really taking steps forward for something that some people may think you don't need, but once you got it, if you build it, they will come. And so hopefully we will get Amtrak or something like that as well. And of course, we can always hold back that at some point we're going to have our Hyperloop as well. But this is not part of that. This is all about having good transit so that we can take more cars off the road so that we can have a cleaner climate. So it's really, it was pretty exciting to see what these experts were telling us. Move now, because now's the time. So, and I think that's about it.
Thank you.
Sorry for taking so long.
Convention and Visitors Bureau, Mr. Leesburg.
Yeah, I didn't receive anything from Lori. I'm not sure what's up with her. I don't know what's been going on lately. She may need a couple days off after the Jazz Fest, so nothing to report tonight. Yeah, we had, the Jazz Fest was this past weekend, so we'll give her a pass tonight.
Thank you. And School Board, Mr. Schnetzer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, just, I'll be brief here, but since our last meeting, the city has shared with the school district a proposed new school compensation agreement pertaining to pre-1994 and post-1994 CRAs, as well as the related TIF districts within the city. After allowing some time for review, the working groups will seek to schedule subsequent meetings as necessary to discuss any further negotiations. And once that date is known, I'll update the group here. That's all for me.
Thank you. And official reports. Madam Mayor?
Yes, thank you. As Councilman Leesburg just said, Visit Gahanna was a little busy this weekend. I'd like to congratulate Lori Kappas and her team at Visit Gahanna on the successful return of the Creekside Blues and Jazz Festival after having that event not take place last year due to COVID. And while council members may know, some of the residents who are watching in person or online may not be aware that the entire team at Visit Gahanna is entirely new. So to ask an entirely new team that's never been involved in planning an event before to present the largest event in the city, and then to ask them to do it in the middle of COVID and try to reimagine an event was really a monumental task, and they did exceptionally well. I just thought it was a great weekend for Gahanna. So I know there were, I think almost every council member was down there volunteering at some point this weekend. The festival committee that works all year round to put that on, sponsors and volunteers, and of course our city staff that both volunteered and supported that event through the weekend. I'd like to thank everybody for just really helping to bring that event to fruition. As I said, it was a great weekend in Gahanna and for Gahanna. A lot of great promotion, TV, newspaper, radio, et cetera, for the city. To catch you up on a couple of things just over the last couple of weeks since I last had some comments for you, we held a bricklaying ceremony on Thursday, September 8th over at the Crescent at Central Park for Walnut Creek Surgical Centers. I'd like to thank Councilwoman Angelo Ann McGregor for being there, for attending that event. This is the third medical office building that is being added to that development. And what made it even more exciting was the developer, Mr. Canini, announced during the bricklaying ceremony that a fourth medical office building has been signed and will be built. And the vascular physician who is investing in that building was there and introduced to the team. And perhaps soon we'll be able to officially announce that a fifth building, which is currently in discussions, will also be announced. Every one of those buildings will add net new services to the city of Gahanna, adding what is really often overlooked medical jobs to our community, jobs that are stable, that provide work opportunities for our residents, and that most importantly will add to our tax base. Council might remember back in the first quarter of this year when there was extended discussions around the Casto project that are part of that Tech Center Drive property, that there were letters submitted from physicians in support of that project stating that they wanted their employees to live nearby and be able to walk to work. Well, we kept calling this project catalytic and transformative. It is. We are seeing the fruits of that decision that council made back in February right now. We have 4, hopefully soon to be 5 medical office buildings being built now on the northern part of that property, and in large part because of the Casto project that you approved just a few months ago. So kudos to everyone for working together to get that to move forward. Last Tuesday, as Councilwoman Bowers mentioned, thank you very much, we held our first town hall here in Chambers on the West Side Sewer Project. And the residents were able to attend either in person or to watch that virtually online. Public Service Director Grant Crawford and our City Engineer John Moorhead, as well as our Communications Manager Karen Wester, worked hard. We all worked together to put that PowerPoint together, and John and Grant both did, I think, an exceptional job, not only in providing updates on the project, but really also simply explaining how sewers work. I know Councilwoman McGregor is especially adept at that, but the difference between a stormwater sewer and a sanitary sewer and how those operate, and offering suggestions as to what residents can do right now to both evaluate their own systems, but also steps that they can take to help mitigate potential damage, potential flood damage, I think were very helpful. We had great questions from the audience. Questions were submitted ahead of time and also via chat and also from the floor here in Chambers. They were a very engaged group, and you really know you hit it out of the ballpark when residents clap at the end of talking about sewers for an hour. So I think we were all kind of taken aback by that, but clearly they appreciated that and appreciated the discussion, and we will look forward to continuing to offer those types of presentations as that project continues to evolve. I think one of the lessons we learned from COVID is that residents truly appreciate being able to watch these types of meetings and presentations virtually. They can't all be here at Monday at 7 or Tuesday night at 6:30, and they're able to be recorded, and then they can go back and watch them at their convenience, and it gives them an opportunity to be informed. So that whole town hall forum that we used for the sewer discussion last week is something we will continue. It was something that I had wanted to do last year, and obviously we couldn't for many reasons. But our next one will be in just a few months, and the topic will be economic development. We'll give you some more details next month once we get a little bit closer. We have some other things coming up in the meantime, such as the Mill Street Market this Sunday, presented by the Gahanna Historical Society. It's from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The City of Gahanna will have a booth there. We'll have our Public Service Department, our Police Department, Parks and Recreation, and my office with our communications staff will be there rotating throughout the day. Give us an opportunity to answer questions from residents, whether it's about sewers or streets or whatever they want to talk about. We will be there to engage with them. Also, tickets are on sale for Creekside Hops and Vines. So we have 3 weekends in a row of major events here in the city. As you know, that event is put on by the Parks and Recs Foundation. It goes to support scholarships and programs and events that happen here in the city. Tickets are still available. You can get those online. Just internally, last week we implemented a mask policy when you came in. Sorry to have done that to you kind of at 12 o'clock on Monday. Since we are not in a state of emergency, one of the steps that I could take was to implement a facial covering policy for our city facilities when you're indoors. So for the time being and until circumstances change, that is one thing that we were able to do, and that will remain in place. As always, we will monitor numbers and the information we get from Franklin County Public Health and recommendations from them as we continue to move forward. We are also working on the budget. I know Director Burry has mentioned that the budget process is underway. All departments have submitted their budgets and are being compiled by Director Burry. Starting next week, Director of Administrative Services, Miranda Vollmer, and I will be meeting individually with each department director to pare down their requests so that we can get the budget balanced and in a form to present to you, which will be October 25th, I believe is what Director Burry has already announced. And speaking of Director Burry, I'm very, very excited and proud to share that we have received the Ohio Auditor of State Award with distinction. And that is given for excellence in financial reporting related to the comprehensive annual financial report and compliance with applicable laws for the fiscal year ended in 2020. This is the first year that we have received that award with distinction. And we have received those awards in, I want to get it right, 2011 and 2012 for exemplary financial reporting before we began to produce the comprehensive annual financial report in 2013. So I think that the fact that we received that award for 2020, given all of the tumultuous events that happened last year and all of the budget adjustments that had to be made in March without knowing where we were headed and continuing to adjust throughout the year, is even more significant. So I commend Director Burry and her team for their excellent work on behalf of the city of Gahanna. And it doesn't stop there. I also like to announce that the Director Burry and the city of Gahanna received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award from the Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA. And that was awarded for the annual budget for fiscal year that began this year. And for those of you who are unaware, it's the highest form of recognition in governmental budgeting. And achieving the recognition, or this recognition requires publishing a budget document that meets program criteria as a policy document, a financial plan, an operations guide, as well as a communications device. And this is the 8th year in a row that Director Burry has received that award for the city of Gahanna. So Joanne, thank you very much for all of the hard work that you do for the city and the transparency and accountability that you give. Two more personal things. Mr. Roth, it's nice to see you sitting here today. I am missing my partner in crime, City Attorney Ray Malarski. I do want to share with you, he had his surgery today. I did get a message that the surgery went well. He is obviously in a great deal of pain, but He's still texting, so his fingers are working. And I think he's planning on being online by next week. We'll see what happens. And on a very personal note, I will say that after 15-plus years, this was the first weekend the Jadwin family had off. And my husband and daughters were actually enjoying having passed the baton to the next generation for the Creekside Blues and Jazz Festival. But it was also my younger daughter's bridal shower weekend. And it didn't really occur to me until we were in the middle of the shower on Saturday, and she looked around the room I had family from Pittsburgh and family from Lancaster and her fiance's family, and she started crying, and she said, "This is the first time my family has been together since Christmas of 2019. And it was, because we have not been able to see each other. And so just for that reason alone, it was a great weekend for me as well personally. And that's all I have, so thank you.
Mr.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think we need to stand up and give a...
Yes, we do.
Thing for Mr. We will never let you leave. You know that. You're the best. Keep taking care of all that money for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. From the City Attorney's Office, Matt?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have nothing to report at this time. I just hope Mr. Malerski is able to return to his job as soon as possible.
It's only been day one, man.
And let's see, with that, move to council comment. Ms. Angela?
Well, I loved going and carrying a brick around. That was wonderful to see that. But first of all, it's moving so fast. But that was such a great thing to do, and I was so proud for us that we're making this thing work. And it will if they build it, they will come. And meeting the person who's going to bring in another building was quite a terrific thing. So I felt like it was a good day in Gahanna. Also, I thought the Jazz and Blues Festivals this is the first time I've actually heard the music, because I was always selling things and we never could hear anything. It was so wonderful to hear. I could hear the jazz things because I was on the south end, but it was a really good event. And this is what I heard from the event. You know, this is maybe better than June, because it's just was a little less, I think. You know, it wasn't as hot. Well, it was as hot, but we didn't have but we did not have any bad weather. But they said it was just felt good that it was this time. So that was a good thing too, and it was nice to be able to volunteer. I have an event that's coming up this Friday. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be like, but Morpsey has this thing for their team. There's the people and all of the people that are there, the teams, and it's called Leaders in Legacy. And they're going to be asking me questions on how I got where I was, I guess, or what about leadership and that sort of thing. So I'm excited about it. Nobody else ever gets to see this. It's only, the director doesn't come in or anything. It's just between the employees at Morpsey and the person that they've selected to thing. But my questions, I think, are by the daughter of someone who lives here, Fry, I think. Anyway, she said she knows. Her mom knows me. Anyway, it's wonderful also to have really such a great clerk as we have. I want to put that. She does everything just so well, and we always know what's coming up. So, other than that, it's September. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Bowers?
Yes, thank you. Just to start off, I want to thank those who were able to participate and attend the community conversation that we hosted today with the Franklin County Auditor's Office on the Tax Incentive Hub. It was a really informative presentation, and I found it to be really useful to go over the hub again, even though I've seen it a couple times already, but to be able to go over the hub again with Gina Shelton from the Auditor's Office, and State Representative Mary Lightbody was able to join us, and I know Economic Development Director
Director Strum was able to participate a little bit as well, by surprise, and thank you so much again. If people are interested in watching that, it is recorded. It's also posted on Facebook. We were able to stream the Zoom to Facebook Live, so I want to echo the mayor's sentiments that being able to do things in hybrid, whether it is live hybrid plus recorded or virtual plus recorded, gives the people an additional opportunity to participate. I know one of the things that I thought was important about helping open the doors of City Hall figuratively was to make sure that people who had other obligations or responsibilities could still participate in their local government. And I think that's maybe one of the silver linings of this push to change technology and how we use technology. So I'm really, really glad about that. This weekend, Stonewall Center of Columbus is celebrating its 40th anniversary. Stonewall Columbus was founded in 1981 with the goal of increasing visibility and acceptance of the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender community. Throughout the 40-year existence of Stonewall, the Central Ohio community has changed, and our region is now, Columbus specifically, is now the 14th largest city in the country and recognized as one of the most LGBTQ-friendly cities in the United States. Similarly, our region, I think, has also been adapting and changing, and that change in Columbus certainly has an impact on suburban communities as well. I think that is all I wanted to address tonight, but thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Mr. Leesburg.
Nothing this evening.
Mr. Schnetzer.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. Busy weekend on my end. It kicked off Friday evening at Blues and Jazz Festival, where I was attending in a personal capacity. Got an opportunity to spend some time with family and friends down there, and at least after the sun went down, the weather was very pleasant. Saturday morning, attended Coffee with Council. Coffee with the Council started way back in 2014. I think that may have been one of your initiatives there, Mr. Larrick, as a more, I guess, informal and perhaps more comfortable opportunity for resident engagement. After a multi-month pause in response to COVID, it really just felt good to kind of get back into the swing of things. And we had a pair of very engaged residents in attendance. So again, it just felt good to check that box and kind of experience that part of the job again. Saturday evening was back at Blues as a volunteer working the admissions booth. Do want to say thanks to the CVB, city staff, and the many volunteers for a great event that is very, very important to this community. And then lastly, to Director Burry, congratulations and thanks are in order for the many, many awards. The only question I have is, are you running out of space on the wall for all of this hardware that you've been collecting? But anyway, thank you for your continued efforts.
We have a construction item in the budget for next year.
Thank you.
That's it?
I know I said something, I really appreciate Casto doing for the detention basin behind Stone Ridge Theater, that they took care of that. But today I was driving through, and I think it was a year or two ago, they cut down all the trees in Stone Ridge, and I was very concerned because a lot of times in older shopping centers, and that one's probably 30 years old, they don't keep things up. And I'm happy to say I drove through today, and it was so beautiful. Their plants are really have come in this year, and I just applaud them for keeping up the look of that center. It really does. And Hunter's Ridge has looked really nice this year too. I noticed I know they paved within the last year and some of their planting. So I mean, it really does help the city look better when these shopping centers are kept up as far as the paving and the plantings. Also, thank you for mentioning the Mill Street market on Mill Street this Saturday, and it's only from 9 to 4. It's from 9 to 4. So,
Well, good. I need to tell Grant so he's not there.
but we hope we have, I think, 120 vendors, and so a great variety, and so we're looking forward to seeing lots of people there. I know there's been a lot of interest in it, so hopefully we have good weather. That's all.
Thank you. It is nice that as the summer has ended, that it feels in many ways that we're a little bit more back to normal, and yet at the same time, we have the increasing risks and messaging and statistics that are out with regard to COVID. I hope that it is, I hope the turn turns to the positive as opposed to the negative that it is. One case in point being with regard to Coffee with Council. It is a fantastic opportunity, and for years, every time that we've had this dialogue, and the attendance has ranged from dozens to just a couple to actually we've had some where no one has arrived, but in all cases, the response has been exceptionally positive to have an opportunity to talk across the spectrum of council about whatever is a concern and or just simple questions about how things work or not in a way that is casual and comfortable and allows people to get information in a way that isn't intimidating or intruding. And we take notes, and Council Clerk is following up on a couple of questions that came up. Indeed, this weekend, along with all weekends, are exceptionally busy across a whole spectrum of activities this weekend, in particular Friday night, doing some work with the Historical Society, and also had the opportunity to speak with the guests in the Historical Society's Lilystone Bed and Breakfast Friday evening. The interesting thing about that conversation is the folks come to Ohio from Alabama to go to primarily a flea market in Springfield. Historically, they would also, in the past, they would also go to Gahanna's at the same time because they happen to be in the same weekend. But in any case, yet they stay in Gahanna because they enjoy it and it feels like a second home. And they have done this for quite a number of years. So it is quite the trip and quite the daily trip while they're doing their adventure over in Springfield. And of course, the Jazz and Blues Fest, I think there's some conversation or some discussion has been around the attendance being a little bit lower, but I will tell you that my experience going through it, it was fantastic. It was a wonderful crowd. It was, there was movement, there was space to move, and yet it was highly energetic and just a fantastic weekend. I planned on volunteering for a short period of time on Saturday evening, and it ended up becoming the entire evening. But that's how those things work. To give to the community is just what we do this for. On a side note, I don't even know that this necessarily relates to council or the city, but I'll pass on it. Different conversation. In any case, there are two items we would ask for an executive session this evening. Moving into executive session. One is under the two different rules. One is 5.40A to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of public employee, or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against the public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless the public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing. 5.40A. I'm not going to read the entirety of G unless council requests it, but for under 5.40G to consider confidential information related to the marketing plan, specific business strategy, production techniques, trade secrets, or personal financial statements of an applicant for economic development assistance or negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance, provided that both of the following apply. There are two significant subsections, which I'm more than happy to read if you wish. Is there a motion to go into executive session under 5.40A and 5.40G?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Leesburg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Angelou. Any discussion? Roll call?
Leesburg,
Yes.
Angelou,
Yes.
Schnetzer,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Lyric,
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
Motion carries. We'll cover 5.40G first, and then the second section is just council. So I don't believe there's any legislation coming from the executive sessions this evening. By all means, if you wish to stick around and sit for us to adjourn, you are more than welcome. Otherwise, thank you for coming.